we're going to talk about how you make your first video game. First off, like, why you should listen to me. I went to MSU. I went for the game development program. I did my college degree on game design, and I now work at Iron Galaxy Studios, which is a AAA game design company. So I do this as my full-time job, going from literally knowing nothing to pretty much failing out of college to crawling my way back and finally eventually getting a game in AAA game development. So this is how kind of a lot of things work. Is like you see that one polished, cool AAA game that has all those bells and whistles. Like, it feels like the picture above. It's a big old monster colossus just kind of hanging over you. You don't know where to do. You don't know what to do. And you start thinking, like, I should make a video game. That sounds fun. That sounds cool. Do I know how to program? Do I need to learn how to make art? How do I animate a character? How do I create enemies? These questions start piling up. What we're going to do today is try to break you out of that cycle. A lot of noise. There's a lot of noise. What we're going to do today is we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to get you right at the beginning of this graph and kind of get you up to hopefully at least to here. At least to here. We want to get you from nothing to, okay, that looks fun. I've made one thing. You've made one thing. Then you're like, okay, you can build from there. It doesn't have to turn into something. It doesn't have to turn into something that's like a full-time job like I do it, right? It could just be something you do for fun on the side, you know, a side project to tinker away at. And I'm just going to show you how to make a very simple video game. And in return, you're hopefully going to stop overthinking, you know, that this is something so messy and so hard. You're actually going to, you know, get on your journey to start making cool things. Unity very recently has released their own visual scripting engine. It's something where you can code without having to learn how to just code, right? You can make stuff move in game without having to get into the whole thing of learning how to make code, learning how to set up software and all that. It all happens right in the engine, so you can do everything in one place. All you gotta do is go to unity.com. I'm personally still a fan of, for new developers starting with Unity, one, because they just added this new visual scripting element, which means you don't have to learn to code. Two, because there is so much of a learning community and a support community still around Unity that any question you have along your journey, odds are there's going to be a video for it. There's going to be a blog post for it. If you type in pretty much any problem into Google, you're going to find an answer for it. Hopefully, at least for starting for Unity, you get one small win, and you can then take that win either to build up something in Unity or to try to go over to one of the other engines and, you know, have a better understanding of what's going on. So to get started in Unity, all you gotta do is hit the download. You go here, download it for your platform, and when you download it for your platform, you're gonna take you to this guy, which is Unity Hub. And then when you're here, all you gotta do is hit add and just make sure you get a version that's 2021 or newer. Once you have your version downloaded, you get in, hit new, and you're gonna get this little pop-up with new project. You should see your version up above there. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna choose a 2D game. Why a 2D game? Because frankly, it's simpler. There's a lot less going on, right? A lot less going on means a lot less we gotta worry about, which means we can move quicker to actually making our first game. Cool. So we're gonna call this project My First Game. And we're gonna go ahead and hit create, and that's gonna start cooking for us. So once your project is done loading, you're gonna get into the actual Unity game engine. We got a few main elements on the screen. We've got right above me in the top, we have our hierarchy, which is kind of just a list of all elements in the screen. You can see right now we just only have our camera. We have our scenes, which is our assets, where we can kind of go through. This is our file explorer, like the files on your computer. You can see we don't have a whole lot, but like, you know, if I had like characters, if I had text, if I had scripts, which are just kind of little simple pieces of code. Those would all go down here. Right now we have the scene that we're currently in, which we will rename from sample scene to scene, and just hit a reload. Cool. And then we have our scene in the center. This is our view into the game world. We see this area, which is just where our camera can see. Our game scene view which is what our camera sees. And then finally, we have our inspector, which gives us all of the information about what each object does. So this is the camera. We can see it's got stuff like what color the background is, whether it's like an orthographic or perspective lens, and all different little things that we could do to tune it around. So we're gonna go bit by bit and just make ourselves a little game. So what we're gonna do first is we're just gonna come up here to the game. We see right now it's in free aspect mode, which means it's just our screen for the game is as big as this window is. That's not actual to your actual monitor. Your monitor is an actual size. It's not infinite. So we're just going to change this guy to a nice little 10 by 10 square. So we got to make a game. What we're going to do is, first off, if I hit play, it loads up. Nothing's happening because we got nothing. We got nothing in our game. It's all empty. So maybe let's start off by adding a player. Adding just a little guy that we can move around so we can actually do something inside the game. Cool. So what we're going to do is go over to left. We're just going to hit 3D object. We're going to go to left. We're going to hit 3D object, and we're going to get a cube. And we see dropped in, we got a cube now in our hierarchy, and now we got a black cube inside our game. Let's make that guy. Let's go over here to the right. Oh, whoops. Sorry. We actually don't want a cube. We're going to go over here. We're going to hit we're not going to make a 3D object. We're going to make a 2D object. We're going to make a sprite. We're going to make a square. Whoops. This is a 2D game, so we're going to make a 2D square. It's going to show up in our game view, and we're going to see it now in our hierarchy. We can go over to the right and just rename it player, because that's going to be our player. We see this white square. Hit play. Let everything figure itself out, and nothing's going on because it's just a square. What we're going to do here is we're going to actually tell this square how to move. So we're going to add a component. How Unity works is basically everything is a bunch of objects, and you add components that make them do different things. Since we're using visual scripting, I'm going to add this component, which is called the script machine, which lets us add scripts. We're gonna hit new script, and we're gonna call this new script player. Cool. And now we see it showing up on the inspector. Now what we can do is we got our player script, and we're gonna open up. We're going to open up our visual scripting scene. There we go. And now we have this script graph panel. We're going to slide this guy just over here next to our scene in our game view. And we're going to see our script panel. So this is partially why you need to do 2021 or later, so you can use the script graph. Which basically, the script graph is going to let us make behaviors using these little blocks without using code, which is, for a lot of people, it's pretty easy. I work in the game development industry, and there's a lot of good number of game designers I know who just use these blocks, and they don't write like regular code. Because they're not programmers and they find this a lot easier to get through their day-to-day job. So cool. We've got our on start, which will do whatever's connected to on start, and on update, which will basically do anything we connect to it at a interval, at a little pace. So to make our player, what we're gonna do is we need to basically, when we touch the buttons, so like our up, down, left, right, WASD, our stick on a controller, we want it to move our player in the direction that we press. So first thing we gotta do is we have to get what those are. So Unity makes it really easy. All we gotta do is we're gonna do get axis, and we're gonna do that 2 times. We're gonna get axis, blink them together, and we're gonna put in horizontal and vertical. Awesome. Cool. Horizontal and vertical. That means we are up and down and our left and right. Fantastic. And what we're gonna do is then we want to apply whatever direction we're gonna go on the player. We want to move the player in that direction. So what we need to do to actually move the player in a direction is we have to give the player physics, because the player actually doesn't have physics by default. We just made it. So we got to add physics. And what we'll do is just by adding a rigid body 2D. So rigid body 2D, rigid body is my body, it's rigid, and it moves like it's rigid. And now the player does too. Because he has a rigid body. And now we can use physics on our player. That's about all it does. All I can do now is, now that I've added it to the player, I can go get rigid body. Rigid body. Well, technically I don't need to do it. All I need to do, I know it's here, so I can go to, I can type in set velocity 2D, and now this block pops up that you can see is connected to our rigid body, and all I gotta do is drop my little arrow in, and I can apply the velocity. But the 2 axes, this ain't gonna work. So this is a vector. It's a vector is 2 numbers, which are if you think like moving to 2D, it's like, okay, I'm moving up, I'm moving right, I'm moving up and right. I could be left on the screen, I don't know, I could be inverse, but we actually have to combine these 2 numbers to give the computer full picture. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create a vector 2, and we're gonna get our x and our y. If you remember back to grade school, you have your x plane and your y plane. Your side to side and your up and down. That's what we're doing here. We get our x and we get our y, our vertical and our horizontal. And then we plug that into our rigid body. And then we plug the vector into there. Awesome. Very cool. So now, if I hit play, what should happen is something that I think is going to happen. We're actually slowly moving down because now we have physics. So gravity is a thing. We have gravity. So gravity is pulling us down. But if we hit up, we can go up. If we hit down, we can go down. Hit left. Hit right. And we can move. We have a player. We can move around. Left, right, up, down. Awesome. And we can go set that gravity scale to 0. We can hit Control S to save. And now, wonderful. We've got a little guy. You can move up, down, left, right. And we can actually do something. It's not much of a game right now, but we at least have something moving on the screen. So, gonna go on back. Head on back. to our script graph. So we see him moving around the screen. He's actually moving pretty slow. You know, that's not pretty fun. So what we're gonna do is we need to speed this guy up, and we want to speed him up, you know, by something that we can maybe change each time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here on the script machine. You can see at the top there's variables. We're gonna add a variable here where it says new variable name, which is, and we're gonna hit the word speed. Hit the word speed, and we're gonna take the type, and we're gonna set that to a float. So we have our variable speed set to 5, which basically means that we're gonna take our vector and multiply it times our what we can do is we can take our vector and we can multiply it by, if I go here, I right click, I hit get speed, and I pop this guy in. We should get take what we're hitting on the buttons, get our multiply it times our speed, which is 5, and our player should move 5 times as fast. Oh, looks like we got a little problem. We have cannot convert single to vector. I did just have this, but that's okay. We will redo the boy. There we go. Okay, I don't know what the issue was there, but we plonked the plonk. And now we got a box that's moving around way faster. So if we go up, we go faster. If we go down, faster. But the one thing we actually have here, if I hit down and to the left, we move extra fast. It's actually because we have up going 5, we have to the right going 5, and then when they come together, they actually go probably about, they kind of cancel each other out by half. So you're basically going 7.5 in the diagonals instead of 5. So all we have to do that is we can just add a block to basically even things out, which we will do by going here and then get normalized, which now it will be normal. And if we multiplied the normal version of the vector, we pop it. And there we go. Now we're not moving extra fast left, right, up, down, or on any of the diagonals. So now we have a player. Cool. Very fun. We have a player, but that's not much of a game. So if you think about, like, okay, like what makes a basic game? Like, sure, you can have a game where you just walk around infinitely, but if you think of a basic game, you usually have 2 things. Or 3 things. You have a player, you have a way you can win, and you have a way you can lose. So what we're going to do, we're going to add in, we got our player, now we're going to add in a basic way we can win, and then we're going to add in a basic way we can lose. And that'll be our game. So cool. We go on back, we have our player, we're going to make, let's go back in, we're going to redo what we did before, we're going to hit right click, go to sprites, go to square, and get a second square on our square on our board. We can see square is actually right behind our other square. I fold those out. We've got 2. And just so we can tell them apart, we're going to change this guy to green, and we're going to call it goal. We're going to call it goal. So what we're going to do is basically move this guy around in our scene using the little arrow bits. Click on this guy, move it away. And we're going to say we want it to be when our player touches the goal, we win. Straight and simple. You get across, hit the goal. Nothing happens right now. So what we need to do is make something happen when the two blocks touch each other. But we saw before, when they touch each other, when they touch each other, they actually go over each other. They don't stop. That's because even though there's physics, we actually don't have collision. So collision's actually something different. So what we gotta do is we gotta go over, we go add component on the player, add a box collider 2D, and go over to the goal, and add a box collider 2D. And there we go. Box collider 2D, box collider 2D, and now when I make them touch, we're gonna be able to see that they go bonk. Now we can't hit each other. So now we can actually make our player hit the goal. We just need to make something happen when we touch the goal. So we're gonna do that with another script. We're gonna add the script machine to the goal, and we're gonna hit new over here. Type in goal, and we're gonna edit on the graph. So what we're gonna do is we got our start, we've got our update. What we're gonna do now is get a new event, which is basically when something happens in the game, do something else. We're gonna go on collision, enter 2D. So basically when two things start touching, when they enter each other, and it's 2D, we want something to happen. Well, what do we want to happen? We want to check to see whether it's the player that's touching the goal. And the way we're going to do that is, well, we don't have anything that actually really tells us this is the player. So what we're going to do is Unity actually has these really helpful tags where we can just go here and tag this, call it the player, and we can actually go back to the goal and go to the collider, which is going to be where our information about what is touching us, you know, hey, something collided with me, what is that? And we're going to see whether the thing that collided with us is the player. Put the word player in there, and we're just going to check to see if it's the player. And then if it's the player, we're going to, we're going to send a little message in our console. So you see over here, this is our console, which is kind of our little scratch pad. Actually isn't gonna last, so we're just gonna keep moving forward. We're not gonna worry about getting the more stuff than we need to. We know if it's the player, we want something to happen. Well, what do we want to happen? We want to, quote unquote, win the game. So let's do something that has us win the game. Let's put something on screen when the player hits the box that says we win the game. So what we're going to do here, we're going to add something to the UI, the user interface, what the player sees when they're playing the game. And we're going to add a canvas, which is going to kind of sit on top of our screen. We're going to hit, we're going to go over to it, and we're going to call it our windscreen. And it doesn't have anything going on, so we're just going to go back. We're going to go to UI. We're going to have text. Now this is going to pop up. Just hit the button, import what it needs to import. This is just getting you some basic text stuff. And now we can see we have some text on screen. And we can go over to the right and call it. We can say, you win. You win. Awesome. Now we have text that says you win. We can make it bold. Save again. And now we can say, okay, when we touch the goal, show this on screen. So let's go back to our goal script. We need to get this win screen, right? We need to, hey, I need to grab wherever this win screen is. I need to put it, I need my goal to know about it. So we're going to go over, we're actually going to make another variable. We're going to call it the win screen because that's what it's going to be for. And we're going to choose an object because that's what we're going to use. It's the object of the win screen. And we're just going to drag it over and boom. There we go. Now if I do get win screen, I can pull it in. Awesome. We now know how to get objects and get other objects to know about them in a pretty basic sense. So I can take this guy over and with the win screen, what I'm going to do is say, okay, well, if it's the player, let's turn on the win screen. But that doesn't help us right now because the win screen's on by default. So let's go over here, right click on the win screen and turn it off. With this, we're going to hit this toggle active state to turn it off. So now that it's off by default, we can go and if everything is correct, we know that if we hit it, oh, something's not right. No problem. We'll just go back, take a look. We're comparing our tag from the collision on the goal. We're hitting true on get active. Missing input for value condition. Oh, that's taking us into something we don't want to go. Get away. Be gone. We're not gonna deal with you. Get out of here. Shoo. Get out of here. I don't want your IBM shit on my screen. Okay. Enough of that. We're gonna say, okay. Oh. That's the thing with the visual scripting. You have to make sure your lines are connected. So we're gonna make sure our compare tag is on the if, and now if we read it, we see if it's true. If the player tag of what hit the goal is player, now we set the win screen to true. Cool. You win. Awesome. Now, we can basically win the game, right? We can hit the win game. So, it's a pretty basic game. Pretty boring game, but we can win the game, right? Bonk. You win. Awesome. Now, what do we gotta do next? Now that we can win the game, we have to be able to lose the game. So what we're going to do for that is we're actually just going to make, you guessed it, another square. We're going to make another square, and we're going to call this, I'm going to call this an enemy. And we're going to make it red because it's mean. It's a mean guy. We're going to take the enemy. I'm just gonna move him between us and the goal. You gotta get around the goal to get to the enemy, right? And all we gotta do is we gotta say, okay, well, we won the game when we touched the enemy, touched the goal. We won. Okay. So now we know we win the game when we touch the goal. Now we lose the game when we touch the enemy. Cool. Simple. So what we're going to do to do that is we're going to go to, we're actually going to do this on the player. Because we already have a script here. And we're going to go to this player. We're going to say, okay, cool. Well, on collision, same thing as before. On collision, enter 2D. Enter 2D. We're going to have, we're going to check what we collided with, and we're going to do what we did before. We're going to do compare tag, and we're going to check to see whether we hit an enemy. And if we hit the enemy, make sure that our lines are connected this time. If we hit the enemy, we're gonna explode ourselves. So we're going to destroy. What game object are we going to destroy? We're going to destroy ourselves. This game object. So now, if we hit the enemy, same thing as we hit the goal, we should destroy. But we don't have an enemy tag here. So why don't we go and add the tag? We're going to hit this little plus button. We're going to hit enemy. And then go back and just make sure it's called enemy. And not to forget, we need a box collider to actually touch the enemy. So now, what we're going to do, go. Oh. An enemy. An enemy. One extra E there. One extra E there is gone. And now, with my grammar solved, we can actually touch the enemy, right? We will go bonk. Awesome. Now that we've touched the enemy, we've lost the game. The game isn't over, so this isn't really, not really a really stunning way to win the game, or lose the game. You know, we're kind of like, you know, if we went from here, even though technically we have a game right now, you know, we can still, like, we can lose after we win, and then we can't really do anything afterward. Be a pretty sorry experience. So why don't we let's just add a way for us to restart or replay the game. So let's toggle our windscreen back on, and let's give ourselves a button to play the game again. Maybe move this guy around here. We're going to double click just to get ourselves over to where the text is. We're going to use this little arrow to move it down, and we're going to call this. You see, we can go to our button. We can go here. We can call it our play. We can call this button play again. Awesome. Now we have a play again button. So we have this button, and if we hit it, we want to be able to play again. So what are we going to do? Well, we should probably make it so when we press that button, something happens. So let's go to our windscreen, add this script machine, and make a new script and call it our windscreen script. Awesome. So now that we have our windscreen, what we need to do is we need to get the button from the object that has the button and press it. So let's get our play again button. And what we are looking for here as the variable, we want a button. And we're gonna just drag it over, and we're just gonna instead of using the whole object, we're just gonna use the button component, right? We're just gonna use the button part of it. So now I'll just hit right click on my windscreen script. We're going to look for clicked on button click. There we go. And what button are we waiting for to get clicked? We are waiting for the play again button. So we're gonna pump that guy in there, boom, and say when it's clicked, what we're gonna do is we're going to go to our scene manager, which is what handles all of our different scenes, all of our different levels. And we're going to load the scene. And what scene we're going to load? Well, the one we renamed earlier, just our scene. Awesome, cool. So now we can load our scene. So now if we go to our game, let's turn our windscreen off again. Let's toggle that state off. Let's hit play. And when we actually touch our goal this time, bonk, you say you win, and then we hit play again, and then the game resets. So now we actually have a game that resets when you do something. Awesome. Cool. We actually have like a bit of a game, and what we can do, we actually do now is say, okay, I'm just gonna duplicate my windscreen. And call it my lost screen. And let's do the same thing that we did for our windscreen on the player. So let's add a new variable called lost screen. Lost screen. Wonderful. Awesome. So sick. We're going to grab an object. Once before, we're going to grab our lost string. And with that, now we can just say, okay, well, when we also destroy the player, make sure to set active to our, oh, I'm trying to drag it over, but what we actually need to do is get lost string. And we can go boom. We can turn that on. So now, when I hit play, I run into the red block. I hit you win, but with a quick little text change of you lose. There we go. Boop. You lose. And we can play again. And I can lose again. I can hit play again. I can win again. If I hit play again, I can win again. And I can lose again. And we can go over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So now we got ourselves a little game. We can win, we can lose, and when something happens, the game resets. So with this, what I can do is now that I have a game, I can go, I can actually go into scene view, and like, it's like, okay, well, this isn't too hard. This isn't too hard. So I'm just walking around this block. So I guess like, let's make this block bigger. I'm going to move up the scale. I'm going to say, okay, well, there's a big red block now. Okay, well, I guess I'll go around it. It's a little harder. And I can win, but I can still go outside the screen. And that's a problem. So what I'll do is I'll just copy the red block and I'll make it bigger, and I'll just copy it again and I'll put it around the edge of the screen. And we're not doing anything like super special here. We're just making, you see, we're just making a little border on the screen using the stuff we already know and already understand. And like, oh, well, I don't think I can get there now, so let's just make it a little smaller. And now, oh, I'll put it here. Put it here, maybe. Maybe I'll move the player into the corner. So now, I now can kind of get around this and win the game. Cool. So now you can see, and now very quickly we can just go boom, boom here, and here. And let's move our goal in the corner too. And you can see in no time at all, from just these very, very, very simple beginnings, we've got, oh, I hit the edge. We've got ourselves a little maze game. We've got our little maze game, and you win. Cool. And you know, maybe I want to go in, maybe I want to you know, maybe I want to move this up here. Maybe I want to move this one. Maybe I want to make it so you have to like go around like 2 and get back. You know, I have to kind of like fit through this little opening. Let's make it a little squishier, right? And now I can kind of play the game, and like you can start playing, you can start toying with it, right? You're at the point now where it's like, okay, I have something basic, and oh, I can slide in. Oh, a little too far. I can slide in, I can get around, get in. And now you can make little adjustments. Now we're cooking, right? Now we've got stuff going on, and we got a game. It's not just one block and a goal. Like is it fantastic? Is it gonna win? Is it gonna win any awards? No. Well, no, but it's our first game. It's your first game, right? It's just enough, and like, see, even like me, it's like I'm just gonna kind of like tap it, and I'll get there, and cool. It took me a few tries there, you know. What's up? We increase the complexity. We're having a little fun, right? And now we can kind of get into the process of like, okay, well, now I'm messing about, right? Now I'm building up to something, you know? I could, you know, you could see, you could make the, maybe make the blocks smaller, maybe add them at angles, right? And you can very quickly build up to actually having a bit more of a game, right? Like, this is a game. And we can kind of move things from here. So we're going to do the last thing here, which is, like, I make a game. I actually want to now, I want to show it to people. I want to show it to my friends. I want to show it to my family. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go up to Build Settings. We're going to go here. We can see it here. We can choose, like, oh, what platform we're going to build it for. I'm going to choose Windows. And we're going to hit Build. And we're going to send this. I'm going to go to my desktop, and let's make Let's make a my first game folder. Select that folder, and it's gonna start building. We've got you on the graph. You are that one developer. You are on the graph, and you're like, okay, now you can start playing with things. Like, okay, now I've got my folder. You can see, oh, look, my first game. And I can open this guy up. And there we go. My game is here. If I hit it, I can lose. I can play again. I can go through my little maze. Oh. And I can win, right? And I can take this game that I've made, I can put it in a folder, and I can, you know, send it off on Google Drive, on OneDrive, on a USB sticks, on whatever. And maybe you won't hit that that beast, right? That giant colossus, but you know, you can start taking steps. You can move. Hello, and it's Future James. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving a comment and subscribing to support the work I'm doing. If you have something you want to see a video on in the future in terms of game development, leave a comment below, and I'll definitely go and take a look at it. If you want to keep watching, there should be a most recently uploaded video on the screen now, so click that if you want to watch more stuff and go deeper on your game development journey.